stories from Jesus. This is one about the lost son. Great crowds of people came to listen to Jesus. He loved the people, and the people loved listening to him. One day, the ordinary people gathered around, and the religious leaders came too. Jesus told them some stories to illustrate how God accepts sinners and is happy when they come to him. Jesus told them about a lost sheep and then a lost coin. Next, he tells them another story about a man with two sons. The younger son said to his father, "Give me my share of your estate." What a terrible thing to ask his father, for he's more interested in having money than he is in having his father. It's as though he would have preferred that his father was dead. The father divided up his estate and gave the younger son his share. That would not have been easy. He was a wealthy man with a thriving business. He must have called in his accountant and his lawyer and maybe the bank manager too. But somehow he converted the younger son's share into cash and handed it over. The emotional cost must have been high too. He loved his son, but there was no love coming back to him. The younger son was selfish, only thinking about himself and not caring about how his dad was affected. And this is how people are towards God. God loves us, but people would love themselves rather than loving God. Soon, the younger son gathered together everything he had, and he left home. He took everything. He had no thought of coming back. When my son left home as part of his university course, he went to Essex for a year. I knew he would be back. He said he would, but he also left his Lego. Several years later, my son got married. This time he left home for good. I knew he wasn't coming back. He took his Lego with him. More seriously, the younger son in Jesus' story, he had no intention of coming back. He was happy to leave his father's care and watchful eye and to be independent, doing things on his own, no longer feeling the need to obey his father's instructions. He wanted to be separated from his father. Again, this is how people react towards God. Often they do not want God's 10 Commandments being applied to them. They would rather just live the way they please. The younger son went abroad and enjoyed spending his money. He squandered it on useless things, nice meals and fancy restaurants, perhaps some things which are immoral and some things which are simply just wrong. Of course, his money soon ran out. This happens with people today as they live their lives for themselves. They start in their youth thinking they're having a great time, but life becomes dull and there's something unsatisfying about it. In their efforts to find something worthwhile in life, some people do good charitable deeds. Some pursue a great career. Some invest in family and friends. But ultimately, these things all come to an end and life is empty. Other people squander their time much more quickly as they enter into the drug scene or they try to find answers in alcohol or in relations or even in some criminal activity. Jesus said that the younger son managed to get a job feeding pigs. He was starving because he had no money and the friends that he thought he had all gone off somewhere else. A job would help. But as he fed the pigs, he was so hungry, he wanted to eat the pigs' food. Can you imagine? I wonder how many of you would like to eat a nice pack of dog food for dinner or a tin of cat's food for lunch. No, I wouldn't like it either. No one gave this young man anything. And as he drooled over the pig food, he came to his senses. He thought about his father and all the lovely food that he had. He decided to go home and apologise to his father. He made up a wee speech to say to his dad, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm not fit to be in your family. Would you give me a job?" We need to do the same. We need to apologise to God, to tell him we're sorry and that we're not fit to be in his heaven. He made the long journey back home. I'm sure he wished he'd never gone so far away. And I've met people who really wish they'd never gone so far away from God. It can be a long, hard journey back. Meanwhile, back at home, the father was looking out for his son, and he saw him while the son was still away in the distance. The father ran towards his son, and when he reached him, he threw his arms around him, he hugged him and kissed him. He was delighted to welcome his son home. The son began his little speech to apologise. He didn't manage to finish it because the father was giving instructions to the servants. This son was in no fit state to come into the father's house. The servants were ordered to have the son properly dressed in the best clothes, with shoes on his feet and a ring on his finger. When someone comes to God to apologise, God accepts that apology and makes the person ready for heaven. We're not fit to be in heaven in our sinful condition, but God does all that is needed for us to be made ready. We simply need to come and tell him that we're sorry. You'll notice that the father did not send the son away to sort his life out. The father sorted his life out. The son couldn't have done it if he had tried. And God does that for us too. The father also instructed the servants to get the barbecue on with the best meat, to get a band to play music, to bring the neighbours in and to celebrate. My son was dead and he's alive again. He was lost and now he's found. And they began to party. And God sees us the same way. While we do things ourselves without God, we're dead to God, separated from him by our sin. But when we come and apologise, God welcomes us into his presence, where there is great joy and happiness. You should go to God today and put matters right between you and God, and God will make you heaven ready. Did you remember that there were two sons? The older son was working in the fields, and he hears the music and he sees the dancing as he arrives home, and he called a servant to tell him what's happening. The servant explained, and the older son refused to enter the house. He's furious that his little brother should have been forgiven and welcomed back. The father comes out and pleads with him to come in, but he would not enter the house. Jesus put this sting in the tail of his story to show the religious leaders that they were like the older brother, unforgiving, lacking in compassion, wanting to be the centre of attention, and very unhappy when someone else is the centre of attention. Actually, they were displaying the same characteristics and attitudes as the younger son. It's just that they were working out differently in their actions. But deep inside, they're just as guilty of seeking independence as the younger son was. Sadly, the older brother persisted in his refusal to enter the home and to join the party. There are people who will miss out on all the blessings of heaven because they think they're too good and that they're better than other people, people that they think of as sinners. Now, it's fine for people to go to church, and you can go to church all your life, but you still need to come to God, and you need to accept the others that God has accepted too. If you want to read the story I've just told you in the Bible, you'll find it in the New Testament. It's in the book of Luke and in chapter 15. For more information about becoming a follower of Jesus, have a look at our website, oamission.com. Thank you for watching.